The Hour of Calling, Chapter 2. Such a lovely afternoon. Della so enjoyed sitting out front. We were snapping beans, and just like that, Stella snapped her fingers, God called her home. She would recall the details over and over for all who would listen as she took her place in a chair next to the casket. From the front porch, John watched as the cars began to slowly fill the driveway. The people, those he knew and many he had never seen before, slowly and reverently made their way up the steps. A smile or two noted here or there. Not one of joyfulness, but rather of politeness, as John would hold open the screen door as they entered inside to pay their final respects to the deceased. Very few funerals had he attended, and certainly never one taken place in a home, Della's home nonetheless. As each mourner departed, John would say, "Thank you for coming." He was only repeating what he had heard others say. He kept a close eye on his watch. Time was inching closer and closer with each passing minute. Why had Della chosen him? Just why? Stella had reminded him several times it was an honor, but John could not help but fear it was the old lady's final revenge. "I heard you had the honor," Doc Rogers said as he opened the screen door, stepping back out onto the porch. "I guess I really don't know," John answered. "This screen door needs oiling, don't it?" The doctor opened and closed the door several times as if that would stop making it squealing. "Stop messing with that door. It's giving me a headache," Evie Rogers, the doctor's wife of 35 years, said as she stepped through the door. "Evie, you got any WD-40? The doctor asked. "Not in my purse, I don't," the wife responded. "Come on, I want to go see my grandbaby." James Brinson Rogers was her whole world now. Doc Rogers said the baby had single-handedly decreased his time in the office by hours. Evie started rushing the patients through like cattle in a stockyard. The day the doc overheard his nurse tell Preacher Johnson, "It's just a cold, suck it up, Buttercup," was the day he realized their retirement was nearing at a rapid pace. Thankfully, the community had taken a liking to the new doctor in town. Stephen Garvin's office schedule was full-time, mostly thanks to Evie's need to go see her precious little Brinson. "John, see if Stella has any WD-40 laying around this house and spray a little on those hinges, will you?" Dr. Rogers asked as he opened and shut the door a few more times. "James Allen!" Evie shouted from the yard. "Oh, both names. You best get on, Doc," Pete McElhaney said jokingly as he approached the steps. Yeah, the doctor mumbled back as he headed to the car. "Heard you had the honor," Pete said to John. "Yeah, about that. I don't want to do it," the man responded. "You want to?" "Nope, been there and done that." Pete declined the offer. "Why can't the funeral home people do it?" John wanted to know. "It's just an old tradition, and Della was old," his former co-worker reminded him. "I don't know. I got a weird feeling about it. That's all I'm saying. Weird feeling," the young man said. Stella stood at the sink, taking her nightly medicine. Dr. Rogers had offered to prescribe her a mild sleeping pill, but she declined. The busyness of the past few days was enough to make her tired. She rinsed the little water cup and placed it in the dish rack next to the sink to dry. John was sitting at the kitchen table, watching her as she grabbed the towel to wipe down the countertops for the third time. She seemed lost without her sister. He could not even imagine what it was like to not have any living relatives. There was a few distant cousins who showed up to pay their respects. Stella said they only came for the reading of the will, for she had not seen them folks in 50 years. Why Della included them in her will was beyond her reasoning. She draped the towel over the edge of the sink, adjusting the corners, and then paused at the doorway, glancing over the kitchen once more as she turned out the light. John walked slowly behind her as she shifted through the house. One final pass by her sister's casket. She gently placed her hand on it and said, "Night, sister." As any Southerner would do, she then turned to John and told him to make himself at home. "There's plenty of food in there. Help yourself. If the good Lord's willing, I'll see you in the morning." She walked towards the room a few paces and turned around. "Thank you for watching over her tonight. She was quite fond of you." John nodded, but was unsure. Why had Della chosen him for the honor, as they had referred to it? His mind wandered back to the day Sam had tricked him into singing in the choir, the all-ladies choir. It was the only time in history of the church the choir was off-key. Della blamed them both. In the quietness of the room, John laughed at the memory. He also recalled how Della insisted on price-checking every item in the buggy while grocery shopping. The coupons, oh, how he hated the coupons. Everyone in town joked about the fact that Della Anderson could squeeze 65 cents out of 2 quarters. He quietly chuckled once more. Soon, silence filled the room. The ticking of the antique clock seemed to echo off the walls. He could hear the wind picking up speed outside. Once again, he found himself hungry. He ventured back into the kitchen. All day long, the community had brought food. Pearlie McIntyre had brought chicken and dumplings. John smiled at the thought of how it was just expected she would. Ham, turkey, butterbean, squash casserole, just a few to mention. John peeled back the corner of the tinfoil on one of the bowls, revealing Evie's turnip greens. He tried not to gag. Despite everyone's constant reviews of this southern dish, he declared turnips to be the worse fate than death. As he cut a big slice of Aunt Bee's homemade chocolate cake, his mind wandered back to Sandy. Oh, how he missed his sidekick. No matter how much he knew it was for the better for him, he second-guessed the decision to let the young lad leave. His own kin, better schools where they lived. The sheriff had found Sandy's aunt, his daddy's younger sister. Minutes seemed like hours to John. The quietness he found a bit unnerving. Trying to move silently through the house was even a greater task. He accidentally knocked a glass of tea off the table and then dropped his spoon on the floor as he toted the multitude of paper plates back to the kitchen. How can I still be eating? He stretched and turned and twisted, trying to rid his body of the heebie-jeebies. When he wasn't eating, he was remembering conversations between him and Della. It was only 2 weeks ago she had woke him up at the crack of dawn. "John, I need you to move my clock," she had said. He stared at the clock a minute. "Move it over 12 inches, she instructed him. A task that seemed silly at the time, but now he regretted not doing so. Why had he not already done so? Just 12 inches. His decision to do so during the night he would regret. John was hoping the crashing sound was enough to wake Stella as he waited. He was hurt and couldn't move. "Stella, can you hear me?" he called again. He could see the hallway light come on as it cast a beam onto the hardwood floors. "Stella, I'm over here." "Where?" She could not see him. "Turn on the lights. Stella, I'm stuck." She shuffled over to the light switch and then noticed the clock was laying on the floor. "Oh no, Mama's clock." "Call someone to help. I can't move." John took a painfully deep breath and said, Stella shuffled to the kitchen phone. On the wall was her list of emergency numbers. In all her nervousness, she dialed the first one. John's cell phone rang in his pants pocket. "Stella, call someone else. I'm a little busy right now." John rested his head against the wall. Pete and Billy Wade were the first to arrive, followed by Doc Rogers and Evie, toting the grandbaby. Why Stella didn't just call her neighbors is unknown. Tell the doc this boy has done turned over Mama's antique clock. You know the one in the parlor? Stella reported it to Evie. John was pinned between the sofa and the wall, and the clock was resting on top. What on earth? Pete said. Be careful with Mama's clock. Don't scratch it, Stella instructed Billy Wade as he tried to get a good grip on it. How did this happen? Evie chimed in. Della asked me to move it. John took another painful deep breath. Everyone turned towards the casket. Billy Wade started exiting the room. He was scared of the old woman while she was living and wanted no part of her being around when she was a ghost. Not tonight. The other day. Get this off of me, John yelled. All right, that's it for now. Hope you enjoy.